I still believe Kenny Pickett remains, at least for now, the likely number 2 option, unless, of course, he gets shipped out in a trade. And I get that perspective, too. Look around the league. Dallas, Detroit, both have quarterback depth questions. Then, you've got the Raiders. And with Aiden O'Connell sidelined, that's another glaring hole. That's 3 teams right off the top of my head that could be in the market. And then there's Dylan Gabriel, who, through no fault of his own, commits what I consider one of the cardinal sins of quarterbacking. He's undersized. Breaking out of Cleveland, rumors are swirling that Gabriel is drawing interest from contenders like Detroit and Dallas. With Kenny Pickett already traded, the spotlight pivots directly to Gabriel. And now, whispers are growing louder that Shedeur Sanders could be only a handful of games away from cementing himself as the Browns' official QB2. If that happens, this could be nothing short of a franchise-altering opportunity. "Good luck, Browns," one analyst quipped. "Good luck with the decision you're about to make." General Manager Andrew Berry appears determined to push forward with 4 quarterbacks. But just last week, Kevin Stefanski said that wasn't realistic. Clearly, fiery debates are taking place behind closed doors. Veteran insider Mike Florio weighed in, revealing the tug-of-war happening within the Browns front office about the possibility of moving Dylan Gabriel. Florio explained that trading him could weaken the quarterback competition internally, but simultaneously open the door for Shedeur Sanders to leap forward. That opportunity could catapult Sanders into the NFL spotlight as a legitimate second-string quarterback, perhaps even as a key acquisition for another team in need of stability. Florio further noted that the Browns might ultimately view Gabriel as the tradable asset, particularly since Pickett's departure has thinned the room. Sanders, meanwhile, is essentially untouchable thanks to his massive built-in fan base. The backlash from moving him would be catastrophic. "That's one of the natural consequences of drafting Sanders," Florio said. "He brings an army of supporters everywhere he goes." Stephen A. Smith echoed that sentiment, emphasizing that Sanders is undeniably climbing the depth chart. He pointed out that even before the most recent preseason matchup, Sanders had clearly surged past Dylan Gabriel. Despite a minor setback last week, Sanders has maintained a spotless record, communicates with poise, and is laser-focused on sharpening his craft. Smith stressed that the Browns recognize this growth and are counting on him to evolve into a more dominant and influential presence. He underscored just how dramatically the narrative has shifted in only 7 days. Sanders was already gaining ground thanks to sheer talent and performance, but recent developments have accelerated his rise. And here's the kicker. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, who once seemed reluctant, has publicly shifted his tone. He now insists he's fully committed to Sanders' development, criticism or no criticism. That's a marked change in stance, especially considering how hesitant he was just weeks ago.
Kevin Stefanski had been brushing aside concerns and even levying unfair critiques at Shedeur Sanders. Yet, with the trade of Kenny Pickett, the coach's stance has shifted dramatically, thrusting Sanders back into the spotlight and handing him a genuine opportunity to prove himself. The timing couldn't be more pivotal. Sanders' physical gifts and commanding presence are now giving him a decisive edge over Dylan Gabriel in the quarterback competition. "I don't concern myself with outside noise," Stefanski remarked. "I'm committed to his growth, just as I am with all our rookies. We'll continue to focus on developing our players, and that's where my attention will remain." Analysts across the league have weighed in on Sanders' chances of seizing the QB2 role. Many agree that Gabriel's stature may ultimately undermine his ability to hold that position long-term. Mike Tannenbaum praised Gabriel's preseason poise and execution, but quickly noted the harsh reality. His lack of height could become a persistent obstacle at the NFL level, possibly accelerating trade discussions. In a league that prizes measurables, even elite skill can be overshadowed by physical limitations. Nick Wright echoed this sentiment, acknowledging Gabriel's undeniable talent, while stressing that his size remains an immovable barrier. Wright pointed out that while Gabriel can't alter this flaw, it looms large in determining whether he can ever evolve into a reliable starter, when contrasted with Shedeur Sanders, who possesses superior natural tools, stronger physical upside, and greater long-term potential. The disparity becomes impossible to ignore. So if you want to roll out Joe Flacco at the start of the season, fine, Wright continued. But Sanders is the quarterback with the presence, the potential, and the production. He's already shown he's the guy. Wright emphasized that Sanders' training camp numbers speak volumes. While statistics can sometimes mislead, Sanders' accuracy, composure under pressure, decision-making, and consistency set him apart. Day after day, he delivered at a high level. For Wright, that steadiness was the defining factor. With Sanders' stock surging, Gabriel increasingly looks like a trade candidate. His preseason flashes of talent cannot fully offset the looming question of his durability and viability as a long-term starter. Meanwhile, Sanders has not only sharpened his mechanics, but also matured mentally, approaching the game with the mindset of a franchise leader. The Browns' quarterback battle has therefore entered a new phase. As speculation intensifies about Gabriel's potential departure, momentum is clearly building behind Sanders. Influential voices such as Mike Florio, Stephen A. Smith, and Nick Wright are aligning on the same conclusion. Sanders' rare physical tools, consistency, and ceiling make him the rightful heir to Cleveland's quarterback future. Gabriel, while promising, may simply be a better fit elsewhere. Cleveland now appears to be subtly, yet steadily, reshaping its foundation around Shedeur Sanders. If his upward trajectory continues, he won't just secure the QB2 role. He could very well emerge as the long-term leader the franchise has been searching for. As the season unfolds, all eyes will be locked on Sanders to see whether he transforms potential into undeniable reality. This isn't just a coaching dispute. It's a full-blown football rebellion. The Cleveland Browns fan base is finished. Finished with excuses. Finished with recycled coach speak. Finished watching the same predictable failures unfold under Kevin Stefanski's reign. But this time, it's not merely about stale play calling or a lifeless offense. No, this smells like sabotage. And at the epicenter of the storm, Shedeur Sanders. What began as hope, some thought hype, has spiraled into a storyline straight out of a sports drama. The Browns had a golden opportunity, a promising young quarterback, a rising star with both name recognition and undeniable talent, and somehow Stefanski fumbled it worse than a greased football in a monsoon. Shedeur arrived in Cleveland with fire in his chest. He wasn't coasting on his last name. He was earning his place. Preseason flashes revealed a QB with poise, precision, and maturity well beyond his years. The fans noticed. The media noticed. Even former pros noticed. And what did Stefanski do? He yanked him out mid-2-minute drill for Snoop Hundley. No injury, no explanation, just a coach's decision that made less sense the more anyone tried to justify it. Momentum crushed. Confidence sabotaged. Fans stunned. The backlash was instant. Former players like TJ Hushmanzada torched Stefanski for wrecking a young QB's rhythm. Skip Bayless went nuclear, accusing the Browns of flat-out setting Sanders up to fail. And honestly, can you argue otherwise? Because Stefanski hasn't just made one bad call, he's stacking them like bricks in his own firing wall. Let's rewind. Sanders' first preseason game. Crisp throws, calm command, flawless demeanor. The type of debut that makes fans whisper, "We might finally have something here." And Stefanski's response? A vague, recycled cliché about competition and learning moments. Not 1 ounce of genuine praise. That's when whispers began turning into roars. Was this incompetence? Or was it calculated? Because if you followed the Browns longer than 5 minutes, you know the pattern. Quarterbacks here live on the shortest leash in football. One missed throw and you're on the chopping block. Unless you're a Stefanski guy. And Sanders? He isn't. But Sanders isn't just another body in the QB room. He's a high-profile rookie with grit, composure, and the will to lead. And instead of cultivating him, Stefanski's treating him like an annoyance, giving him the cold shoulder. Like this is some petty high school grudge. The fans aren't blind. Scroll through Brown's Twitter, or worse, dive into Reddit. It's a revolt. Not just because of how Stefanski is mishandling Sanders, but because of what it represents. A collapse of trust. A system that suffocates potential instead of nurturing it. A coach whose ego has swallowed his ability to lead. The offensive line Sanders was thrown behind, completely reshuffled mid-game. Starters pulled, protection evaporated. Like asking a boxer to fight with one arm tied behind his back, then blaming him for not landing the knockout. Fans are calling it what it is: sabotage. And here's the kicker. If this were any other rookie QB, maybe there'd still be a shred of benefit of the doubt. But because it's Shedeur Sanders, because of the name, the spotlight, the confidence, suddenly it's arrogance. Suddenly he's too flashy. Suddenly, Stefanski thinks he needs to humble him. Please, that's not humility. That's ego. And ego doesn't win football games. Because when a coach can't separate personal bias from performance, he's not developing talent, he's gatekeeping it. And in this case, he's gatekeeping the very spark this franchise has been starving for. And let's not pretend Stefanski has the resume to justify it. He isn't Belichick. The Browns under his watch haven't exactly screamed model of excellence. What they have screamed is inconsistency, squandered potential, and head-scratching decisions. And this Sanders fiasco, it might just be the final straw. When fans are chanting for your job before the regular season even kicks off, that's not noise, that's revolt, and Cleveland fans don't turn on coaches lightly. If they're done with you, it means they've endured enough broken promises and wasted talent. Ownership may not say it yet, but they're hearing it. National coverage is hearing it. Former players are amplifying it. And the locker room? Reports say even players aren't buying Stefanski's tactics anymore. There's a storm forming in Cleveland. At its heart, a coach who refuses to step aside, and a quarterback who deserves far better than this circus. Sanders has handled it with grace. No finger-pointing, no whining, no passive-aggressive subtweets. Just quiet maturity. Showing up, doing the work, letting his play speak for itself. And that's what makes this sting even more. His message is clear. I'm not the problem here. The problem is a coach out of step with today's NFL. A coach clinging to control instead of building leaders. A coach on the verge of coaching himself. Right out of a job, the Browns are at a crossroads. They have a potential franchise QB on their bench, a fan base ready to rally, and a coach on thin ice. The question is simple. Does Stefanski wise up and embrace Sanders as the future? Or does someone else do it for him? Because here's the truth. This kind of talent doesn't sit quietly forever. And this kind of coaching doesn't survive scrutiny for long. Drop a comment. Is this sabotage? Is Stefanski finished? Should Shedeur be unleashed as Cleveland's future now? Or will the Browns let him slip away and light up defenses elsewhere? Hit subscribe if you're watching this saga unfold. Because one way or another, this pressure cooker is about to explode. When mistakes harden into patterns, and patterns spiral into consequences, you don't just have a head coach in a slump. You have a man actively sabotaging the very thing that could save his job. Shedeur Sanders. The quarterback with the skill, set, and swagger to finally break Cleveland's generational curse. The one talent who could end the endless quarterback carousel that's spun out of control since Bernie Kosar. And yet Kevin Stefanski is treating him like an inconvenience. A glittering gift he didn't want and doesn't know how to use. You can feel the resentment bleeding through. You hear it in those vague post-game soundbites. Empty talk about development and being ready, as if Shedeur were some practice squad long shot instead of a legitimate QB1 prospect. You see it in the rotations, the cold sideline body, language, the way Stefanski deliberately avoids putting Sanders in positions to thrive, pulling him mid-drive, shuffling his offensive line mid-possession, stripping him of rhythm. That's not caution, that's calculation. And the fans, they're done pretending not to notice. Browns Twitter is ablaze. Cleveland sports radio has turned into a courtroom where Stefanski sits in the defendant's chair and the fan base acts as the prosecution. Analysts, ex-players, even local reporters are saying out loud what everyone's been whispering. Is Stefanski deliberately tanking Shedeur's stock? And if so, why? Is it pride? A power play? Is Shedeur Sanders simply too big for Stefanski's fragile system? Too loud, too visible, too much Dion's son for the head coach to stomach? Because that's the vibe radiating from Berea. This isn't about football anymore. This is about ego. And here's the kicker. Stefanski doesn't even have thunder worth protecting. His coaching seat isn't hot. It's in flames. And he's the one holding the matches. This is the same coach who never figured out how to use Odell Beckham Jr. The same coach who's turned explosive talent into background noise. The same coach who somehow finds a way to dim every bright light that lands in Cleveland. Now it's Shedeur's turn. And don't spin this as he's not ready. That narrative collapsed weeks ago. Not after the preseason flashes. Not after the composure under pressure. Not after that surgical red zone rollout where Sanders scanned, fired, and dropped a dime to his tight end, only to be benched on the very next drive. That's not development. That's politics. And Sanders? He's stuck in the crossfire. Veterans see it. Former players see it. They've been in those locker rooms. They've lived through coaches with fragile egos and hidden agendas. They're calling it what it is on podcasts and panels: mismanagement, sabotage. A coach burying a rising star to protect his own pride. The locker room feels it too. David Njoku openly backing Sanders. Players liking tweets, reposting clips, sending a message without even trying to hide it. We see the politics. We don't like it. And when the coach loses the trust of his locker room, when players start questioning why decisions are made instead of what decisions are made, that's the beginning of the end. Meanwhile, Shedeur stays steady, silent, focused, head down, heart in it, carrying himself with the maturity of a 10-year veteran while his own coaching staff undercuts him in public. That restraint, that quiet leadership, is exactly what the Browns have been searching for since forever. And it's being wasted in plain sight. At this point, the question isn't if Stefanski should be fired, it's how soon can ownership cut the cord. Every day he remains, he inflicts more damage, not just on Sanders' growth, but on the credibility of the entire franchise. Cleveland finally has a quarterback who can throw, run, read, command a huddle, and electrify a press conference. A quarterback with a ceiling that blows past Baker Mayfield's rookie hype. And Stefanski is treating him like a threat instead of the solution. It's madness. And everyone knows it. Fans know it. Analysts know it. The players know it. Ownership will soon have no choice but to admit it. Because the next ugly loss, the next baffling rotation, the next moment Stefanski pulls Sander at the worst possible time, that's when the dam bursts. The chants will grow louder, the headlines sharper, the banners unavoidable. And here's the bitter truth. The only thing worse than a losing team is a team that loses on purpose. That's exactly what this looks like. Intentional sabotage. Watch the tape. Watch the patterns. Watch the decisions. The evidence is glaring. Kevin Stefanski isn't trying to develop Shedeur Sanders, he's trying to outlast him. And the irony? If Stefanski had just embraced the hype, leaned into the energy, and empowered Sanders, he might have saved himself. He might have ridden that wave into an extension, maybe even Coach of the Year talk. Instead, he chose control over collaboration, ego, over evolution, and now the clock is ticking. Either the Browns pull the plug on Stefanski before it's too late, or Shedeur walks. Maybe not today, maybe not this season, but talent this rare and self-awareness this sharp won't stay handcuffed forever. There are other teams, other cities, other coaches who will recognize it instantly. And if Cleveland isn't careful, the quarterback who could have saved them will be the one who buries them.